In this video, we're going to take a look at the Warhound and the various matchups that it will encounter in the game. The Warhound is a new unit that comes out of the factory for the Terran race, and it requires a tech lab in order to build. It costs 150 mineral, 75 gas, 45 seconds, and it's 2 supply. It's armored mechanical with a ground attack that does 23 damage, range of 7, and a 1.7 second cooldown. That was nerfed actually, it was 1.3 seconds before. But there was a lot of talk of the unit being imbalanced, too strong, so Blizzard has nerfed the attack speed. People are still saying the unit might be too strong in the Terran vs Protoss matchup, so we're going to look at that first. We'll check out how strong the Warhound really is versus Stalkers, Immortals, and other unit compositions. The Warhound is actually quite fast, so it can kite Zealots. Technically, it can run away from an Immortal or Stalker, and theoretically, if you wanted to kite an Immortal with Haywire Missile, it is possible, but having a 6-second cooldown, it's not very logical or ever likely to be seen done. But we're going to jump right in, and we're going to see how strong the Warhound really is against the Stalker since the nerf.
We move unseen.
And yeah, in a one-on-one situation, for the cost of a Warhound being as low as it is, it did demolish a Stalker pretty handily.
Not a problem.
And like I said, a lot of people are saying, oh, the Warhound's not that much different than an Immortal, blah, blah, or, I'm sorry, a Marauder. But the speed difference alone, and not having to stim it for that speed, is actually a pretty big deal. That's a reject corner up there. So now we'll try it against 2 Stalkers, just to see
Very wise.
exactly how strong
Intriguing.
it is.
You shy?
It shall be as you say.
You can really see the power of the Haywire Missile. It just rips through. 30 DPS is quite a bit. And wow. I mean, the Warhound is literally equal to 2 Stalkers head-to-head. Again, this is without micro. You could blink, etc., etc. You're never going to see a matchup just like that in a competitive game. Next, we're going to take a look at the Warhound versus the Immortal. And there's a lot of discussion as to whether or not Haywire Missile should ignore the Hardened Shield passive that the Immortal has. Pretty much every spell in the game does ignore Hardened Shields, so Haywire Missile is considered a spell. But we'll see just how imbalanced this matchup really is. Does the Immortal stand up to the Warhound? We're about to find out.
Receive it.
And yeah, it's not even really close. 5 shots from the Immortal, the Warhound's dead, and the Warhound takes off exactly the Immortal shields and no more. So, based off that, I'd say that's, perfectly fine how it is. Yeah, because the Immortal does do a ton of damage to Stalkers. It's just obliterating 2 to 1, that's insane, actually, for the cost. So, but if you throw some Immortals in there, Heavy Immortal, Archon, I think those units will all be pretty strong against the Warhound. Next, we're going to try the Warhound versus the Colossus without the Thermal Lance upgrade. The Colossus is a tier 3 unit, so I'm imagining that it will win in this matchup, but that Haywire Missile doing 30 damage to mechanical, who knows? And yeah, Warhound actually almost killed the Colossus, which is kind of insane. So it just shows how strong they are against mech, especially when they don't have Hardened Shields. Next up, we're going to look at the Warhound versus Marauder. First, we'll check the Marauder, unstimmed, then we'll stim the Marauder, and then we'll stim the Marauder with a medevac, just to see how they match up. Marauder is not considered mechanical, so Haywire Missile isn't really a factor here, but the Warhound's still pretty strong, even though they nerfed it.
Let's do this.
What do you want?
And yeah, the Warhound, just head-to-head comes out pretty strong. I mean, Marauders cost 125, and a Warhound is only 150-75. So it's not a whole lot more. They have the same supply. So to come out that much ahead, is kind of crazy. But let's
Say
see what
it
happens
loud
if we
and
throw
proud, son. What do
Skin
you
in there.
want? Skinny on the way.
Sure thing.
Yeah, Warhound still comes
You
out
shy?
on top by quite a bit.
Come, receive it.
With a medevac, I'd imagine
gotcha.
the Marauder will win,
Kaboom, baby!
but we will find out.
Ooh, it's on.
I'm listening.
Yeah, there's no way. No way the Warhound will win this.
Sure.
So is Marine Marauder medevac, still the way to go in TVT? I doubt it, because Warhounds are really strong. Drops will probably be denied by Widow Mines. Who knows? 2 supply is kind of a lot to use for that unit, for just defensive unit. I can't see Widow Mines being very good in many offensive situations unless you're doing an early game timing contain, but even then Widow Mines require the armory to build, which is kind of nuts when you think about it. Next we're going to test the Warhound versus a tank sieged and then a tank unsieged. Considering Blizzard has stated the Warhound is kind of supposed to be like a central mech unit and supposed to change TVT in the sense that they will break mech lines, I would imagine the Warhound will come on top, but we'll see.
Not a problem.
Wow, and even against a siege tank like that siege, the Warhound barely came on top. Yeah, I could have ran up and done the Warhound punch, but we're doing this all without any micro whatsoever. Now we'll try the Warhound versus just an unsieged tank, which should have higher DPS on average. But it's pretty much the same result. Warhound still comes out on top, but not by a whole lot.
What's eating at you?
Okay.
Next we're going to try the Warhound versus a Thor. Considering Thor is, tier 3, cost over double the price, we can hope that it will come out on top, but...
Watch this.
And yeah, with these, Thor comes out on top. Warhound doesn't do awfully, but yeah. Lastly, we're going to see how the Warhound stands against Zerg units. Zerg units obviously are not mechanical, but the Warhound is still really strong without Haywire Missile. So we'll check out the Roach first.
What do you want?
So really no issue with the Roach. That's probably to be expected.
All right with me.
Here we're going to see how the Hydralisk does with the movement speed upgrade, which is new in Hardness Swarm, and their plus range upgrade. And yeah, even worse than the Roach. I mean, that's not even close.
Skinny on the
These
way.
things are surprisingly strong against Zerg, and really it's just going to take Zerglings. Zerglings will be really cost effective against them as well as air, because Warhounds are only ground to ground. And just for the hell of it, we'll see how the Warhound stands against an Ultralisk. Probably won't go too well for the Warhound, because this is a tier 3 unit. Ultralisks now have their burrow charge. We may as well grab that, actually.
Research complete.
In this map, both sides do have vision of each other, so the Ultralisk will actually get shot while burrow charging, but I don't think it'll matter in the end. And as slow as that charge might look, again, normally the Ultralisk won't be visible, so it's kind of like a surprise tactic, I guess. One way to sneak up on tanks, force the Terran to scan, whatever. And the knockback is kind of interesting. I don't know how that will affect things. I don't think you can knock enemies like off a high ground or anything like that. But that's something worth testing, and I'll probably test that eventually.